So plan A was actually never to come to Colombia. I mean, to the United States. They actually wanted to always stay in Colombia. But when they lost their jobs and they had heard, America, the opportunities, etc., my dad was like, I'll go, I'll scope it out, and I'll see if it's true or not. And it was obviously true. And, he did everything he needed to do. And 6 months, about a week, so it's like 6 months and a week, my dad picks up a phone, which at the time was like it's just teléfonos.
The cord
yeah,
phone.
yeah. It was like a booth, right? So he's calling in a booth, and he's like, "Hey, he is gonna have one of the most difficult conversations ever with my mom, because my mom tells him, I just got offered a job
In Colombia?
in Colombia that actually pays me double than what I was making before. And this person is a good friend of mine. They said that they can get you a job as well. So everything that you've done for the last 6 months is cool, but would you consider coming back to Colombia?" And my dad was like, well, I think America has a better opportunity for us, for Nico, for myself at the time. And so my dad tells the story, and he's like, there was like this eternal pause on the phone, like 20 seconds, but it felt like forever. My mom just goes, where do you think there's a better opportunity for our kids? And my dad was like, 100% in America. So my mom was like, okay.
Do you think he still stands by that answer today?
I think so.
Okay.
I think so. So that conversation happened in 1999. So 26 years later, I think we're doing all right. Yeah. So I think he made the right decision. And I think about, I don't know, if I was in his shoes, I'm not sure if I would have made this right decision, the same decision. I don't know.
Right.
They were young and they didn't know what they didn't know. They were making a huge, huge decision. No English, no money, no connections, nothing. Just 6 months of data of like, New Jersey's like kind of good. Let's just figure this out together. So
that is one thing that always amazes me of immigrants. And I want to say Latino immigrants because that's a community that I know, is this we're going to figure it out type of mentality that it's awesome. But sometimes it's like, maybe let's do a little more research, I mean, at least your dad came and scoped it out.
Yeah.
But I've heard of stories of people was like, we sold our house, we bought tickets, we got here. And I was like, okay.
Yeah, I agree. And I think, again, I can really only speak for Colombian culture, but I feel like Colombian immigrants have that specifically. I think Latino immigrants in general have this resilience. Colombians not only have resilience, but they have this optimism. Even if things go wrong, que cosa, and then we'll laugh about it and keep going.
Delusion, that's what we call delusion.
Yeah, you could call it delusion, I call it optimism, but...
No, sometimes you need a little bit of that. When was the first time that you began to experience the challenges? You became aware, like consciously aware of the challenges of being an immigrant? Because you were 2 when you moved here. So like you didn't know you lived in Colombia. You didn't know you moved to the United States, To
be very honest, I was very fortunate. I didn't really feel it growing up because I had my parents. We never, I always had food. I always had clothes. I think I started to realize we're immigrants probably in high school.
Why?
Because that's when I started to see. So growing up, my parents made the decision to move to a more affluent neighborhood. So I grew up with primarily Caucasian white people. So that had its pros and cons because I was able to learn English, learn it well, but I also thought I was white. Like I grew up watching baseball.
I mean, it's like you look at you, you're like,
yeah, like I'm good. And I had, my name's Nicolas. Nick, it's a very,
it's very Italian.
Very Italian, or, it fit in. I grew up with a lot of Italians as well. High school, I think, was it for me because at the time, I hadn't really gone to school with other Latinos. And in high school, I started to see a lot more Latinos and all flavors. Centroamericano, Suramericano, Colombiano, unos españoles. So people from Spain, South America, Central America. And you start to see these different flavors and listen to their stories, their upbringing. And I'm like, oh, well, these people can relate, you know? And then I realized like, and that's why I mentioned Colombian optimism, because they sort of took their immigration story as suffering and sort of as this trauma.
Is that a wrong approach?
I'm fortunate. So if I were to be asked, how was your immigration experience? I've gone through tough times as an immigrant. The way that I would see it is, this is objectively what happened to me, and I have two choices. I can look at it as, this is a terrible thing, America is the worst, and you know, this woe is to me, pobrecito. But also, I think, and Colombians have this, is like, que cosa, this happened, but now I'm going to become better from it. I'm going to learn from this, and I'm going to pivot whatever I need to do to become better from it. So I understand, and I have met a lot of immigrant stories that I think if you open up a textbook and look up the definition of trauma, that's trauma. And even then, they're smiling.
Yeah, I think I'm definitely somewhere in the middle.
Are you? Okay.
I'm somewhere in the middle, and that's why I asked. But I think it's very awesome that you have that kind of approach, because I know you have gone through hard times, and I actually want to ask you about that if you're comfortable.
Let's do it.
You mentioned that you were a DACA recipient, which I was not expecting. Can you talk to me a little bit about that? When did you know that this was your path?
Yeah, so like I said, I grew up normal. I'm good, you know. And so growing up...
In your eyes, were you American?
It's so funny you asked that. So in my eyes, I was always Colombian, because my parents didn't let me speak English at home. Aquí en esta casa solo hablamos español. So when they watch this, they're going to laugh. But, you know, everywhere else I spoke English. And again, I spoke English with people that spoke English really well, so I learned it. And again, it was until high school when all my friends are getting their driver's license. And I had that conversation, very difficult conversation with my parents. And I was like, so am I going to be able to drive? And I'm 16 at the time. And they're like, that's when it sat, like that's when it hit me. I'm like, oh, got it.
This is where the paths begin to divide.
Again, I am extremely blessed that the same year in which I'm having that difficult conversation, that at the time, President Obama passes the Deferred Action for Childhood Arrivals program in 2014, passes it. I apply 6 months later, and I get approved. And then I have a driver's license, and I am literally like everyone else. That started sort of this whole... It was still a different path, but I had a lifeline.
Is that how it felt? Like perhaps some pressure was relieved, but it is a 2-year, for people that don't know, the Deferred Earlier Childhood Arrival, which is DACA. There's a lot of rules which you have to abide by. And if you look at them, honestly, like DACA people are the best of the best citizens. You cannot have a criminal record. You cannot have anything related to like, you know, DUIs and all of that. And obviously, like you don't want drivers with DUIs. But what I'm getting at is that if you have DACA, you are probably like the best citizens that we have. And the fact that it's such a struggle to accept them as just citizens is ridiculous. Like, this is as best as it gets, and we can't do anything for them. What I was trying to say was, were you feeling that pressure of every 2 years, I'm going to have to renew this? Like, how did you approach your life in that way? Because I would have a certain kind of uncertainty that I would be living under.
Yeah, so Currently, yes, we live under that uncertainty every single day, especially with the current administration.
Right.
It could end tomorrow. Everything that I have would be in question. So that's very tough. And I think this is probably where my optimism comes from is I got a side note. I have a master's degree in data science and statistics. So I think a lot in probability. So what is the probability of this program ending? Well, with this new administration and the previous one, I mean, the one before, so Trump's first presidency, it was very, very likely. And it was threatened and it had gone through all of these things. And when I look at it from a probability perspective, I also have zero control over that situation. Zero. Because I have zero control over it, me stressing over that does nothing. What I do have control over, I will 100% do everything that I can to make the case, as you were saying, be an exemplary citizen, quote unquote, the best of the best, and show that we are here and we are here to stay. And one of the things that I personally am very I strongly believe is that the message that I share with a lot of students that I mentor is your status, your past, your immigration story does not define you. Because if I let my immigration story define me, I'd still, God knows where I would be. Right? Mm. But I was given an opportunity. I was quite literally given a lifeline. And I was like, I got to take advantage. Esto hay que aprovecharlo. And I have been doing that ever since 2014.
So you can't leave the country? So you've never been to Colombia? Oh my God. That breaks my heart so much. So how do you get through those moments?
It's tough. I'm not going to lie.
Have your parents been back?
So their process got figured out before mine. So they, their status is good. My sister was born here, so they're,
So you're the only one?
So I am the only one in my family. We're in Colombia, in the saying, con este gallo. I'm the only one with this issue. Some days it's tough. There's this, you probably have been told this or heard about this, but there's definitely a identity crisis or identity conflict in immigrants. Is like, there are times where I'm way too Colombian for some friend groups. And then some friend groups like, you're so American. And on paper, the legal term is I'm an alien. I'm not even from here. So it's like, okay, but I have this really cool blend of both worlds. When when that sounds, like I'm getting up and I'm screaming my heart out for the national anthem for Colombia. And personally, just my experience with the country, I will stand and I'll respect the American national anthem as well. But again, my life has been predicated on capitalizing on the opportunities that I've been given and controlling the things that I can control. The things that I can't control, I just sort of think these things will pass and